because they have to adjust just about every day, what they're dosing and what they're treating.
So there's a daily test at the plants for what's in that water on that day?
Yes.
But not all chemicals. There's no, I don't think there's any,
I'm sure it's a defined list, yeah.
well, right, but I'm pretty sure there's no mandate for pesticides.
I can't tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, he would know if there was. So basically, you know, we're on our own with pesticides. There's no mandate for it, and we're not testing for it. So that's, you know, and it's probably, maybe it's just a little bit, but, so I think that's a bit of a concern.
Other thoughts, questions?
Are there plans to test for some of those chemicals in the near future?
No.
If I can just add one other point, most of the other toxic things that are tested for, their purposes are for, you know, paint thinners and lead, you know, all kinds of things.
Sure.
The purpose of the things we're not testing, the pesticides and herbicides, the purpose of those chemicals is to kill things. They're made to kill living things, and there's no testing for that. And the only thing the state has mandated is that we do preventative work on that, and I just want to make sure you have the budgets to be doing that. You know, you have to do that pretty aggressively. Because you can't, if you're not testing for it, then you got to make sure it's not getting in there. So, you know, to the extent Canton can do everything it possibly can to prevent that stuff from getting in, I think that's a good thing.
Presumably though, like any of these things, the cost is going to depend on each individual thing, analyte you're looking for. Sorry, and with that, that in turn means that you've got to have a prescribed list beforehand. Is there a process for adding to the list of assays to make that? And at what level does that happen? Is that at the level of the state, presumably, that dictates?
The state and federal government don't mandate testing for pesticides. It's up to the town to do it. And the EPA is only making things more lax.
Well, right now,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so, right. So really, you know, even if the town took on its own procedure for somehow testing for, I don't mean somehow, the testing kits exist, but if the town just on its own said we're going to test for pesticides, I think that would be a good thing.
Again, it sounds like a great citizens initiative. It sounds like something where there's going to have to be some careful work identifying what to look for in the cases where there's enough structural chemical similarity so that you can do a generic test that will pick up a lot of different compounds. That sounds terrific. But
Those tests,
like anything else, in order to implement that, it's going to have to be pretty precise in terms of what the ask is. And again, I'm not speaking negatively to this. I'm just saying that's the issue scientifically.
Well, but I mean, I think it would be nice if the town could just set aside some money to explore the issue maybe for this year. You know, a modest amount of $5,000 or $10,000 just to explore the feasibility of doing some kind of testing for.
Again, I'm speaking for myself and not for the committee. I think it's a fine idea, but in order to have something to really carry forward on top of what the town is already doing, I think it desperately needs the input of people like yourself who will come forward with a very specific plan. We want to test for the following things. This is why. We know that there are certain tests out there that will generically detect 5 of the 10 pesticides on our particular list with a single test, which will reduce the cost. This is what we'd like to implement. This is we don't necessarily know the cost, but at least now we can refer to the experts who can say, well, typically for testing for hydrochlorocarbons or what have you, these are what these things cost to test for, and you can go through that. But I don't think the town is going to proactively put together that list without some significant guidance.
Yeah.
And that would be what I would.
Okay, but I think this is a fundamental safety issue, and NWRA does this kind of testing already. So, I mean, if
If they're already doing it on theirs, then again, let's think about, let's think about pulling that together. I'd love to spend more time on this. I think we're at our momentary end on this, particularly insofar as the Finance Committee is concerned. I would strongly recommend trying to pull together a subgroup who would really tackle this with the attention that it needs at the level of detail it's going to need, so that there can be a very specific proposal. I think you will find lots of support and interest in that, but as long as it's open-ended, it's going to be a harder one to proceed with.
Okay.
But thank you for raising the concerns. I think that's important.
Yeah.
I think we as a town are going to continue to be concerned over these issues. Let's get as granular on those as we can, so we know what the ask is and what the likely costs are, and can make an informed set of choices. That's just, again, speaking from the Finance Committee perspective, but I obviously defer to what anybody else has. Other questions or comments?
If I may. Town water is safe, it meets all the requirements, and we're doing all the testing that is required.
Right, I think what's being
I just
suggested
don't
here is
want
that maybe there's some other things that
Yes.
aren't required that should be, and I'm not here to try to tell you, oh, you should automatically do those. I'm just trying to say, let's get a plan that addresses that in a more systematic, or maybe you already have one and you haven't had a chance to put it together, but in a systematic way, because at least in my scientific world, you have to be really specific about what the assays are, and how amenable to scale they are, and what have you, who's doing what, and how wide a net can you cast, and get some useful information out, and then build a consensus around that, and that would be great. That'd be useful.
See, I'd rather the town say we have 400 newborn babies drinking this water right now. So the town should say, let's figure out if there's pesticides in that water. I mean, I don't know how to do any of, I'm not an expert on.
It's again, I don't want to belabor this. Your point is really well taken. There's a number of things that we ought to know more about. The water in Otis Air Force Base being a good case in point, for leaching of things into the water supply that you don't want there. But I'm saying that from the perspective of putting together a plan for town dollars, it's going to need something pretty specific around, here are the pesticides that are commonly used at the golf courses, we want to test for those, or what have you. And I'm just using that as an example. And then being able to move forward with something concrete, because if we just ask and say, well, we should be testing for all of the following can be an incredibly extensive list. Anyway, thank you.
I'm going to put an ad in the paper that says to all new parents with
Yeah.
babies, if you want to know if there's pesticides in your water, you got to get together and form a group and do it.
Absolutely.
Because the town doesn't want to do it on its own.
Well, I think the town needs to know where to begin and end.
But the-
And I think that's, and again,
The town's the one providing the safe water. The people aren't in a position to do that. That's the town's job.
Okay, I recognize the validity, the need, all of that. I think we need to refine it a little more. It's not that it's not an excellent idea, but it needs to be fleshed out. And I'm sure that you'll find some people who will join you and bring a variety of expertise to the table on that. Thank you for your comments. And for your concerns. They're valid. And obviously I wish you lots of success in sort of crystallizing this thought process around something concrete on which we can act in a really, and when I say we, I'm talking the town, I'm not talking the Finance Committee, who doesn't typically design water testing protocols. But I wish you lots of luck on that, and thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Are there other things, Mr. Trotta, that you would like to bring to us tonight?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your indulgence of our probably naive questions about where water comes from and where it goes. And thank you, the public, for bringing concerns in. And we will proceed with other business, which will be, I think we're running light on continuing budgets and warrant articles, but if there are very specific things that we have in mind for tonight, we could do something along those lines. Otherwise, I don't think we have minutes for this evening, if I understood Ellen correctly.
Correct.
I think we've had some public discussion here tonight. That's always a good thing. I don't see the rest of the public contributing at great length tonight, so that's probably good. And the meeting dates are as specified. There are going to be ongoing updates to the list. I mean, I think Ellen provided us with tonight's packet with updates on the who does what list as we go forward. There are updates also in terms of, or we'll be continuing updates on which groups will be coming in to discuss specific warrant articles and considerations. And just a reminder that as we get into that process, for folks who now know who's responsible for what, the good news is you can get a lot of your own notes that particular night when something is discussed. If you can't make it that night, fortunately, Ellen takes spectacular notes, and if you really want to go the next mile, you can watch us on TV. And I'm sure we're incredibly entertaining. So that's a double bonus. Are there-
Probably trending and we don't know it.
Exactly. Do we have other things which I've glossed over here for tonight, or are we in good shape? In that case, I would entertain a
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amazing. None noted. Very good evening, and thank you from the school, from the Finance Committee. Freudian slip.